Some women do not enter marriage and fight another woman. They enter marriage and fight an entire family. Not because they are rude, not because they are weak, not because they failed to love properly, but because before they even arrived, someone had already decided they were not enough. This is the story of Nadia, a woman who married for love but entered a family where love was not enough to protect her. Nadia was not born into wealth. She grew up in a small village where people knew each other by name, where neighbors shared food without shame, and where children were corrected by any adult who saw them misbehaving. Her mother sold tomatoes, onions, and green vegetables at the market. Her father worked as a tailor in a small rented shop near the bus stage. They did not have much, but their home had warmth. They ate simple meals, they laughed loudly, they prayed together, and even when money was not enough, Nadia never felt poor in love. Her parents taught her that dignity was not found in expensive clothes. It was found in character. They taught her that a person could sleep in a small house and still have a big heart. Nadia grew into a quiet, respectful, hardworking woman. She was not the type to argue. She was not the type to force herself into spaces. She believed in peace. But sometimes, peaceful women suffer the most because people mistake their calmness for weakness. They think silence means you have no voice. They think patience means you have no limit. They think kindness means you will never leave. Nadia met Caleb when she was working at a small clinic in town. She was the receptionist. She answered phone calls, arranged patient files, welcomed visitors, and helped elderly patients understand where to go. Caleb had brought his uncle to the clinic one morning. He was well-dressed, polite, and confident. He came from one of the respected families in town. His father had passed away years earlier, but he had left behind rental houses, land, and several businesses. His mother, Evelyn, was known in church. His sisters, Monica and Brenda, were educated, stylish, and proud. People respected their family, not only because they had money, but because they had a name. And in some communities, a family name can open doors before character is even tested. When Caleb first saw Nadia, he noticed her calmness. She was not loud. She did not try to impress anyone. She smiled gently, spoke respectfully, and carried herself with quiet confidence. After his uncle's appointment, Caleb returned to the reception desk and asked Nadia, "Do you always speak to everyone like they matter?" Nadia looked up and smiled. "Everyone does matter." Caleb laughed softly. "That is not something many people believe anymore." Nadia continued arranging files. "Maybe many people have forgotten." From that day, Caleb found reasons to return to the clinic. Sometimes he came to ask about his uncle's medicine. Sometimes he came to bring documents. Sometimes he claimed he was just passing by. Nadia noticed, but she did not rush. One afternoon, as rain fell heavily outside, Caleb stood near the reception desk and said, "Nadia, I think you already know I like you." Nadia looked at him with a small smile. "I know," Caleb laughed. "And you were not going to say anything?" she replied. "I was waiting to see whether it was serious or just noise." That answer made Caleb respect her even more. They began talking. At first, it was simple conversation. Then it became phone calls. Then evening walks. Then visits. Caleb learned that Nadia wanted to open a small pharmacy one day. Not a big one. Just a clean, honest place where people could buy medicine and also feel cared for. Caleb admired that dream. He told her, "You have a heart my family needs." Nadia smiled when he said it. She did not know those words would later become painful. Because sometimes, the very family that needs your heart is the same family that breaks it. When Caleb decided to introduce Nadia to his family, she was nervous. She spent the whole morning choosing what to wear. Finally, she wore a simple cream dress and borrowed black shoes from her cousin. She carried a small basket of fruits for Caleb's mother. On the way there, Caleb held her hand. "Do not worry," he said. "They will love you." Nadia believed him because she loved him. And when you love someone, you sometimes trust their family before their family has earned that trust. Caleb's family lived in a large house behind a tall black gate. The compound was neat, though the flowers were trimmed. 2 cars were parked outside. Everything about the place said comfort. Nadia stepped out carefully, holding the fruit basket with both hands. Evelyn stood at the doorway. She looked at Nadia from head to toe. Not with warmth, not with excitement, with judgment. As if she was measuring Nadia against an invisible standard, and Nadia had already failed. Caleb smiled. "Mom, this is Nadia." Nadia bowed her head slightly. "Good afternoon, Mama." Evelyn did not hug her. She did not smile. She simply said, "Welcome." Inside the house, Caleb's sisters were sitting in the living room. Monica, the eldest, looked at Nadia's dress and raised her eyebrows. Brenda whispered something and laughed quietly. Nadia heard it. Caleb did not. That evening, Nadia answered every question politely. Where was she from? What did her parents do? Did she go to university? How much did she earn? Did she have relatives in town? Was she planning to continue working after marriage? Each question sounded normal, but Nadia could feel what was hiding underneath. They were not trying to know her. They were trying to place her. When Nadia said her mother sold vegetables, Monica nodded slowly and said, "That is humble." But the way she said humble made it sound like an insult. Evelyn asked, "So your people are from the village?" Nadia smiled respectfully. "Yes, Mama." Evelyn looked at Caleb. "And you were sure?" The room became quiet. Caleb cleared his throat. "Yes, Mom, I am sure." Nadia lowered her eyes. Something inside her felt small. But she told herself not to judge too quickly. Maybe they needed time. Maybe they were protective. Maybe all mothers behaved that way when their sons brought women home. But deep in her heart, Nadia already knew the truth. She had not been welcomed. She had been inspected. When Caleb told his family he wanted to marry Nadia, the house changed. Evelyn stopped pretending. She called Caleb privately and said, "My son, love is not enough. Marriage is also about background." Caleb frowned. "What is wrong with her background?" Evelyn sighed. "Nothing is wrong, but she is not from our level." Caleb was hurt. "She is a good woman." Evelyn replied, "Good women are many." Monica also gave her opinion. "Caleb, you can marry anyone. You have a good job. You have a respected name. Why choose someone who will depend on you for everything?" Caleb defended Nadia. "But there is something painful about being defended in private and abandoned in public." He argued with his family, yes, but whenever Nadia cried, he told her, "Just be patient with them. They will come around." Nadia wanted to believe him, so she became patient. At the introduction ceremony, Caleb's family arrived late. Not because the road was bad, not because they were lost. They arrived late because they wanted everyone to feel their importance. Nadia's family had prepared since morning. Her mother had cooked until her back hurt. Her aunties had borrowed chairs. Her father had worn his best shirt, the one he only wore on special occasions. When Caleb's family arrived, Evelyn barely greeted Nadia's mother. She sat like a queen among people she did not respect. During the ceremony, she made small comments. "The compound is small, but clean. The food is simple, but nice. The girl looks decent." Each sentence sounded polite, but it carried thorns. Nadia saw her mother's face change. That hurt her more than anything, not because they insulted her, but because they insulted the people who had raised her with love. Still, the wedding happened. Nadia walked down the aisle with hope in her heart. Caleb cried when he saw her. For a moment, she forgot the cold faces in the front row. She forgot Evelyn's judgment. She forgot Monica and Brenda's whispers. She looked at Caleb and believed that love would be enough. After the wedding, Nadia moved into Caleb's home. At first, she tried everything. She cooked meals Caleb liked. She called Evelyn every week. She attended family gatherings. She sent small gifts during birthdays. She smiled even when the room became cold after she entered. But nothing she did was enough. If Nadia cooked, Evelyn said, in our family, we do not use too much oil. If Nadia stayed quiet, Monica said, she behaves like she is hiding something. If Nadia spoke, Brenda said, she is trying too hard. If Nadia dressed simply, they called her village. If Nadia dressed well, they said Caleb's money had changed her. There was no way to win with people who had already decided to misunderstand her. One Sunday after church, the family gathered at Evelyn's house for lunch. Nadia helped in the kitchen, she washed dishes, she served food, she carried plates to the dining table. But when everyone sat down, there was no chair left for her. Brenda looked around and said, "Oh, there are not enough seats." Then she smiled. "Nadia, you do not mind sitting in the kitchen, right?" The room went quiet. Caleb looked uncomfortable, but he said nothing. Nadia stood there holding a serving spoon. Her face burned. She smiled weakly and said, "It is okay." She went to the kitchen and sat alone on a small stool. From the dining room, she could hear laughter. She could hear spoons touching plates. She could hear Evelyn asking Caleb about work. Nobody called her. Nobody checked on her. Nobody cared that a wife had been treated like a servant in her husband's family home. Nadia ate alone with tears in her eyes. That night, as Caleb drove them home, Nadia looked out of the window. Caleb sighed. "You know how Brenda is. Do not take it seriously." Nadia turned to him. "Caleb, your wife ate alone in the kitchen today." He tightened his hands on the steering wheel. "I saw, but I did not want to create drama." Nadia's heart sank. That was the first time she understood something painful. Caleb loved peace more than he loved justice. And in his family, peace meant Nadia had to suffer quietly. Months passed. The disrespect became normal. Evelyn would visit without informing them. She would rearrange Nadia's kitchen. She would open cupboards. She would inspect bedsheets. She would ask Caleb why the house looked different from how she had trained him to live. One afternoon, Nadia came home from work and found Evelyn inside her bedroom. She was folding clothes from the wardrobe. Nadia froze. "Mama, you are here?" Evelyn did not look ashamed. "Yes, I came to check on my son." Nadia swallowed. "This is our bedroom." Evelyn turned slowly. "And Caleb is my son." Nadia stood there, hurt and shocked. When Caleb came home, she told him what happened. He rubbed his forehead and said, "Nadia, she is my mother. She means well." Nadia asked, "Would you be okay if my mother entered our bedroom and touched your things?" Caleb had no answer, but still, he did nothing. That was how Nadia began feeling lonely inside her own marriage. Caleb was kind when they were alone. He bought her flowers. He held her hand. He apologized after his family hurt her. But apologies became bandages on wound he refused to stop. Slowly, Nadia stopped telling him everything. Not because she had no pain, but because she was tired of explaining pain to someone who kept asking her to endure it. Then came the pregnancy. When Nadia found out she was expecting, she cried. Not from fear, from hope. She thought maybe a baby would soften everyone. Maybe Evelyn would finally accept her. Maybe Monica and Brenda would stop treating her like an outsider. Caleb was overjoyed. He lifted her carefully and laughed like a child. For the first time in a long time, Nadia felt light. But when they shared the news with his family, Evelyn's first question was, "Are you sure it is a boy?" Nadia blinked. Caleb laughed nervously. "Mom, it is too early to know," Evelyn said. "We need a son in this family." Nadia placed her hand on her stomach. The child had not even been born, and already expectations were waiting at the door. During the pregnancy, Evelyn became even more controlling. She told Nadia what to eat. She criticized how she walked. She told neighbors that young wives nowadays were lazy. At the baby shower, Monica gave a speech and said, "We pray this child takes after our side of the family." People laughed. Nadia smiled, but inside, something cracked. She wanted to stand up and say, "This child is also mine." But she stayed quiet, because pain had trained her to keep peace. When the baby was born, it was a girl. A beautiful baby girl with Caleb's eyes and Nadia's lips. Nadia named her Iman. Caleb cried when he held her. But Evelyn's face changed when she entered the hospital room. She looked at the baby and said, "Girls are blessings too." The word "too" fell heavily in the room. Nadia held her daughter closer. From that day, something inside her changed. She could tolerate pain for herself. But she would not raise her daughter in a home where love came with ranking. She watched how Evelyn spoke around Imani. "She has Caleb's forehead. She has our family's eyes." At least she did not take everything from the mother. Small words, small cuts. But Nadia heard them all. One evening, when Imani was 6 months old, the family gathered again at Evelyn's house. Nadia had dressed Imani in a yellow dress. The baby looked beautiful. Monica held her and said, "She is cute, but let us pray the next one is a boy." Everyone laughed. Nadia did not. Monica noticed. "What? It is just a joke." Nadia stood up. "It is not a joke to me." The room became silent. Evelyn placed her cup down. "Nadia, do not be sensitive." Nadia looked at her. "I have been quiet for too long, but I will not allow my daughter to grow up hearing that she is less because she is a girl." Brenda rolled her eyes. "Here we go," Caleb whispered. "Nadia, please." But this time, Nadia did not sit down. She looked at Caleb. "No, I have pleased everyone until I disappeared." Then she turned back to his family. "I came into this family with respect. I greeted you. I served you. I listened. I tried. But from the first day, you treated me like I was a mistake Caleb made." Evelyn stood up. "You are speaking to elders." Nadia's voice trembled, but she continued. "Respect is not silence while being humiliated." Caleb stood between them. "Enough. Everyone calm down." Nadia looked at him sadly. "For years, I waited for you to protect me. You kept asking me to calm down, but you never asked them to stop." Those words entered the room like thunder. Caleb's face changed. Because sometimes truth does not need to shout. Sometimes truth simply stands in the room and removes every excuse. Nadia took Imani from Monica's arms. Then she picked up her bag. Caleb followed her outside. "Nadia, where are you going?" "Home. This is your home." She looked at the house behind him, then looked at him. "No, Caleb. A home is where you are safe." He looked wounded. "Not with drama." She left with her baby on her chest and tears on her face. She went to her parents' house. Her mother opened the door and saw Nadia standing there with a bag. She did not ask many questions. She simply took Imani and said, "Come inside, my child." That night, Nadia cried like someone whose heart had been carrying stones for years. Her mother sat beside her and rubbed her back. Her father stood outside quietly, pretending to check his sewing machine, but his eyes were red. For the first time in a long time, Nadia slept without fear of being judged. The next morning, Caleb came. He looked tired. He had not slept. Nadia met him outside under a tree near her father's tailoring shop. He said, "I am sorry." Nadia looked at him. "You have said sorry many times." Caleb lowered his head. "I know," she waited. This time he did not defend his mother. He did not say she meant well. He did not say Nadia was too sensitive. He said, "I failed you." Nadia's eyes filled with tears. Caleb continued, "I thought avoiding conflict meant I was keeping peace. But I was only teaching them that hurting you had no consequences." Nadia looked away. "The words were late, but they were true," Caleb said. "I spoke to them last night." Nadia looked back at him. "And? I told them if they cannot respect my wife and daughter, they will not have access to my home." Nadia was silent. Caleb swallowed. "Yes," my mother cried. Monica said, "You have changed me." Brenda said, "You are controlling me." But I told them the truth. I allowed this. I made you carry what I should have stopped. Nadia wanted to believe him. But pain does not disappear just because someone finally understands it, she said. "Caleb, I need time," he nodded. "I understand." Nadia stayed with her parents for 3 months. During that time, she started working again. She saved money. She helped her mother at the market on weekends. She held Imani close and remembered who she was before shame tried to rename her. People talked, of course. Some said she had left her husband because she was proud. Some said women nowadays did not know how to persevere. Some said she should have stayed for the child. But Nadia had learned something. People who are comfortable watching you suffer will always call your boundaries pride. They will call your healing rebellion. They will call your silence good character until you finally speak. Caleb visited often. Not to pressure her. Not to force her back. He came to see Imani. He brought diapers. He sat with Nadia's father and helped him arrange clothes in the tailoring shop. He apologized to Nadia's mother for how his family had treated them. Slowly, Nadia saw change, not words. Caleb found them a new house farther from his family. He gave Nadia a key before asking her to return. He said, "This house is ours. No one enters without your permission. Not my mother. Not my sisters. No one." Nadia held the key in her palm. It felt small, but it represented something large. Respect. When Nadia finally returned, things were different. Evelyn tried to visit without calling, but Caleb met her at the gate. "Mom, you need to call first." Evelyn was shocked. "I am your mother," Caleb said, "and Nadia is my wife." Those words did not erase the past. But they built a wall where there had once been an open door for disrespect. Monica stopped coming around for a while. Brenda said Caleb had changed. Evelyn told relatives that Nadia had stolen her son. But this time, Caleb did not carry those words back home. He protected his house from gossip. He protected his wife from battles that were never hers to fight. Months later, Evelyn asked to see Imani. Nadia agreed, but only with Caleb present. When Evelyn arrived, she looked different. Proud people do not become humble overnight. But life has a way of teaching even those who refuse to learn. She sat in the living room and watched Imani playing on the floor. The little girl crawled toward her and held her finger. Evelyn's face softened. For a moment, there was no pride. Only a grandmother looking at a child who had done nothing wrong. Evelyn looked at Nadia. "I was hard on you." Nadia stayed quiet. Evelyn continued. "I thought I was protecting my son, but maybe I was protecting my pride." Nadia did not rush to forgive loudly. She did not pretend everything was fine. She only said, "I came into your family wanting peace." Evelyn nodded slowly. "I know that now." Nadia looked at her daughter. "I will not raise her around people who make her feel unwanted." Evelyn lowered her eyes. "I understand. It was not a perfect apology, but it was a beginning. And sometimes healing begins not with full restoration, but with truth finally entering the room." Years passed. Nadia opened her pharmacy. It was small at first. A clean little shop near the bus stage with blue shelves, a wooden counter, and a handwritten sign outside. People came not only for medicine, but for her kindness. She listened to mothers. She helped elderly people read prescriptions. She gave advice gently. Her business grew. Caleb supported her fully. He came after work to help arrange stock. Sometimes he carried Imani on his back while Nadia served customers. People who once looked down on her began to speak differently. They said, "Caleb's wife is hardworking. She has built something good. She is humble, but strong." Nadia would smile when she heard those words, not because she needed their approval, but because she knew who she had been, even when they could not see it. Evelyn changed slowly. Not perfectly, but enough to ask before visiting. enough to compliment Imani without comparing her, enough to understand that a daughter-in-law is not an enemy stealing a son. She is a woman joining a family, hoping not to lose herself inside it. One afternoon, Nadia stood outside her pharmacy watching Imani run around with a school bag bouncing on her back. Caleb stood beside her. He looked at Nadia and said, "I almost lost you." Nadia looked at him. "Yes, you did." He nodded. "I am grateful you gave me a chance to become the husband I should have been." Nadia smiled softly. "I am grateful I found myself before I disappeared completely." Caleb reached for her hand. This time, when he held it, it did not feel like a promise without protection. It felt like partnership. And that is what Nadia had wanted from the beginning. Not a perfect family, not a rich name, not a big house. Just a love that did not leave her standing alone in rooms where she was being wounded. Because marriage is not only two people saying vows, marriage is also the courage to protect those vows when other voices try to break them. A woman does not become family because everyone immediately loves her. She becomes family when she is treated with dignity. And a man is not truly a husband because he paid dowry, wore a suit, or said, "I do." He becomes a husband when he stands beside his wife, especially when standing beside her costs him comfort. Nadia learned that acceptance from others is beautiful, but self-respect is necessary. Because when people refuse to give you a seat at their table, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop begging for space and build a table of your own. And when you finally build it, the same people who once rejected you may come asking to sit, not because you changed, but because they finally saw the value they were too proud to recognize. Nadia had married into a family that never accepted her. But in the end, she accepted herself. And that changed everything.